Okay, so we're at 3:05 here, so I'm just gonna go and start talking. And if somebody shows up, then we can certainly include them in the conversation. But I like to have an interactive type conversation. So if there's any questions that anybody has, I'd be more than happy to answer them for you. You can just pop them into the chat, and I will answer any questions that we go. Oh, hello. So just wanted to give you a quick, I guess, housekeeping. If you want to enlarge the screens, oh, actually, Mark's just doing it right now. Thanks, Mark. I was just about to say that. So everybody, let's get going then. My name is Trevor. I'm with I'm with a company called SongBird Marketing Communications. I am the managing partner. Some of you may have Candace a little bit earlier. She was doing her thing on social media, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about sales. Just wanted to tell you a little bit more about me. I've been doing this. I've been in this game for a long time doing sales and marketing. Actually, I spent a chunk of my early career working at a recruiting firm and spending time in that world. So I'm definitely familiar with some of the challenges that you guys face when you're running your businesses. Let's just jump right into this then. So whenever I have this conversation with people about how they're selling their business, a lot of the times this is the face that comes back with, because they're all confused. They know they need to sell. They just not sure how to do it, or can't understand what it is that they're doing wrong, and not because they're not getting the results that they're looking for. Well, I'm here to help kind of shed some light on this, and talk to you a little bit about what is a good way to do your sales, and also a little bit about the psychology of selling and why people do the things that they do. So when we're talking about sales, there's usually a couple of things that you want to make sure that you touch on when you're selling something to somebody. And essentially, you have to be able to master these three important elements. The first one is the product or service fit. Is your product actually something that people want to buy? I'll be honest, if it's not, you're never going to be able to sell it to anybody. So you have to be sure that whatever it is that you're going to buy, whatever it is that you're selling, people want to buy. In the case of staffing firms, definitely finding new talent is something that most employers need help on, because if they're not very good at doing it, or they have tasked other individuals to be able to do it, and they need help in doing that. So there's a lot of crossover here when it comes to what it is you're trying to do for marketing your business. The other thing that you want to make sure that you try to get across is your marketing message. And when I say, does your content show prospects how your service will be the perfect solution for your needs, what I'm talking about is, can you actually articulate what it is that your company does, and how you'll be able to service the needs of your, not only employees, of your candidates. And then the last thing that you want to be able to show people is social proof. We as human beings are always going to be looking for testimonials and trying to find out how other people's experience with something that we've never experienced before. There's a reason why Google reviews and all those other review sites are very popular. Is because people want to give their opinions about the service they've received. And obviously, as I'm sure you can appreciate, if you don't get good reviews, you're going to have a really hard time selling your services. So let's talk a little bit about the first part. Now, I mean, people ask me, why do recruiters need to think about sales? If you actually look at the in the grand scheme of things, when you're trying to sell recruiting services, it's different than trying to sell a product or service to somebody. You really have to get in. You have to get into their head to understand what is it that the problem that they have, and then showcase your solution to that problem. So in that regards, my first question always is, selling. And I'm sure that as you can appreciate, selling staffing services is a hard sell, specifically because a lot of the times a lot of companies find that staffing and recruiting firms are really just a commodity. They're not much different than the others. And so because of that, you have to work really hard to be able to differentiate yourself from the others and also showcase your value and worth to them. It's really all about the benefits. What's your unique selling point? Again, the biggest thing about the recruiting industry and staffing industry is that because of this negative connotation of being a commodity, you really have to find a way to stand out. And when you're trying to do that, it's really important to make sure that your messaging is going to really help drive some of that. And so you want to make sure that you're actually things and the things that they need to hear in order for you to be able to sell to them. Who is your target audience? Usually when you're talking about recruiters, people don't really understand that it's actually a two-sided market, in that not only do you need to sell employers on the fact that you can get the job done and you can provide them with the candidates that are going to help them grow their business, but you also have to sell candidates on the concept of of the fact that you are the best recruiter or staffing firm that can help them get the jobs that they're going to require to help them build their families, advance their own individual careers, or for whatever reason why somebody wants to get a job, you can provide that for them. So when we're talking about traditional sales, one of the things that we always talk about from a marketing perspective is who's that your target audience is, simply because if you know who your target audience is, you're going to be better able to speak to them with your message when you know who it is that you're talking to. So we tend to talk about things like buyer personas and buyer behaviors. And the reason why we talk about buyer personas is because target audience, picture them as like an client that you would want to talk to. So you sitting across from somebody and you want their business. What would that person look like? What would that company look like? You want to be able to really understand what it is that they're looking to do, understand why they want to do it, understand the challenges they have with it, and then be able to articulate why you can solve all of those things for them. And the same thing with buyer behaviors. Buyer behaviors is really just going to help you understand why people do what they do, and also where you might be able to find them. And I'll give you an example with regards to buyer personas. If you find that you want to create a persona for a small business who is looking for general labor, and you walk into their door and say, hi, I can provide you with general labor. They may or may not sit down and talk to you if they've got somebody else who's doing that for them. But if they're interested, you want to find out what are the challenges that they have with that. So you start asking a lot of questions, right? And then you take that buyer persona and you say, okay, so if this person is the ideal person who I want to talk to, how many others are out there like that? And if there are others out there like that, where can I find them so I can put my marketing message in front of them? Because at the end of the day, unless people know you exist, they cannot engage your firm for their services. It's really that simple. No one's going to buy your stuff if they don't know you exist. And so this brings us to the market. And so the marketing message, people, when you talk about marketing, people tend to think it's really just an exercise. We've been told, I do marketing and nothing ever comes of it, so I don't want to do it anymore, or I don't want to spend money on marketing. And my answer to that is, well, how do you grow your business? Because if nobody knows you exist, how do you grow your business? So you really have to be able to put yourself out there and understand that when people are looking for the services that you provide, what are they going to see when they come across your company? So you want to look at, how this content that you're creating for your marketing messaging is going to help people decide whether or not you can solve their problem. So where is this going to be important? Well, first and foremost is your website. What do people see when they go to your website? If they go to your website and you're talking just about me, and I can do this and we're so great, the chances of them wanting to talk to you any further is going to be lower, simply because the fact is you haven't told them what they're going to get out of working with you. One of the psychological things when it comes to selling is the fact that people are looking for solutions to problems. They don't want you to tell them how great you are. They want you to tell them how you can help them. And so that's where your things like your blog comes into play, and your sales materials, and as Candace was talking about earlier, in your social media. All of those areas where your marketing message is being displayed all help people form an opinion of whether or not you can do the work that you say you can, and so that they're looking to get solved. Now, when I was back in my recruiter days, I mean, I heard a lot of these things, and it used to really, it was very disappointing when you were talking to employers, and very, very defeating, because you spend a lot, we spent a lot of time just, as they call, smiling and dialing. So you pick up the phone, you get a phone book, you pick up a phone, call a company and say, "Hi, we're a recruiting firm. Do you want us to sell you any people to do work for you?" Basically. And it was a lot of no's. A lot of people hung up, and a lot of the things that we heard from people specifically for recruiters is, they're the equivalent to a used car salesman, and will lie and cheat into accepting job offers. Sadly, that one I heard quite a bit on both sides. A lot of candidates didn't trust recruiters, and now we're also talking. This was in the mid '90s, so it was a little different time back then. But still, the sentiment was that nothing good can come from somebody selling staffing or recruiting services. I had a bad experience with once. Must all be bad. That is something that you have to overcome when you're talking about any type of sales position. People have a bad experience with a company that is in your industry, and it leaves a bad taste in their mouth, and they never want to work with you again. So that's things that you have to overcome. The other general myth that we used to get a lot was that we only cared about our own commission, so we were just somewhat greedy. We didn't have the best interest of the employers at heart, or even the candidates that we were talking about. And it's, again, if you're seeing a pattern here, these are all of these things that are challenges that you have to overcome as a salesperson, or selling your services to other employers or to other candidates. The last one here, manipulative and predatory. I mean, I personally heard that one, and it was a little shocking to a guy who had just come out of fresh out of school and was just in his first real sales job. So again, I want to bring this all back to, what is it, the message that you want to project to people, and that simply is, how would you describe your service that your firm would provide to them? So if you were standing in front of somebody, literally, what's your elevator pitch? What are you going to say to them? What's your value proposition? Where do all of these things play into what you say to people when you are looking to get them to engage with your services? And when it comes to staffing firms, again, as I was talking about before, you really have a two-sided proposition that you're talking about, because not only are you trying to you're trying to impress upon employers, and get them to understand what it is, but you also have to impress upon the candidates and get them to understand that you are the best staffing firm for them to be able to get this next best job of their career trajectory. And so the message is completely different, simply because the audience's needs are very different. An employer technically needs to have this job fulfilled. Whatever it is, whatever job role that is in their company, they need to have somebody to fit in this particular role. They also need someone who's going to fit into their organization, as just a general rule. But for the most part, they need a job done, and they want somebody to be able to do it. And the question is, are they going to hire your company to find that person for them, or are they going to hire someone else? Right? Same thing with candidates. The candidates when they see the job postings that you have, or they're even applying to posts that you put out, they want to know that you have their best interests at heart and you're not just using them as a way to make a commission or to make some money, or and all of that trust building is going to come from the messaging that you've created for your brand and for your firm, and making sure that people understand that you're not just about you are about solving problems for them. I always kind of want to talk to our clients when we're talking to them about marketing messaging, and making sure that they understand it's never about you and your brand. It's always about them. You want to be, you want to show people that you are in service to them. And yes, I understand it. Business is about money. This is and there's no way around that. You have to make money in your business. Everybody's in business to make money. That's it. There's no other way around that. However, you can make money and be genuine and authentic in servicing others. And that is really the big message that you want to get, because really at the end of the day, a staffing firm or recruiting firm or whatever term that you use for your business, you are an extension of an employer's HR firm. And so they are the empathetic people. They are typically the ones who care more about the employees and their trajectory within each organization. So your services actually reflects on the candidates of this employer's brand. So if you can't, if they don't think that you can be an extension of their brand and be able to represent them accordingly, that's going to be a problem, right? And I'm sure there's some who probably experienced that. I'm just going to jump into the chat here and see if there's any questions so far. Let's see here. No, not miss any. Awesome. All right. So, just any questions in the meantime before I jump back into the presentation? All right, so let me do this presentation. All right, so the next topic is we're calling that social proof. Now, it's from a marketing perspective, we always look at social proof as really just what they're saying about you, all right? So I'm going to go into a little bit of a sales psychology here, so bear with me for a minute. The one thing that we always want to look at when we're talking about sales is putting yourself in the other person's shoes to be able to understand what it is that they need, so you can be able to solve that problem for them. So the first question you want to ask yourself is, well, how do people buy? And so what steps are people going to be taking when they want to buy something? So in this case, if someone's looking for a staffing for a recruiting firm for their business because they want to hire somebody new, what are they going to do? The first thing they're going to do is they're going to go to Google. They're going to put in best staffing firms in Ontario or Toronto or Canada or wherever you are. And Google's going to spit back a bunch of results to them. They may or may not find somebody in that, but if they can't get the results they're looking for, they may go to somewhere else. So they may go check out your Facebook posts. They may go check out your social media. They may put a call on their own social media and say, hey, I'm looking for a staffing firm. Can somebody point me in the right direction? All of these things help you with your reputational management, but it is imperative that when they see these messages about you and people are talking about you, they're going to have good things to say. The other thing is, things like Yelp. I don't know if anybody actually uses Yelp, but the premise of what I'm trying to get to is the fact that people are doing research before they even call you up to find out if they want to talk to you. So they're going to try to find out as much as about your company as they can before they do anything. So again, this goes back to your content. You're talking about your messaging. So what does it say when you get to your website? What words are you going to be using when you're talking about how you can solve their problem? Is the content that you have going to resonate with people, right? And we talk a lot about brands and what it is that they represent to people. But really, at the end of the day, social proof is one of the biggest things that's going to help you gain your candidate or the employer client that you're looking to get. You know, if you have great relationships with your clients, then you know what, maybe now's the time to ask them for a Google review if you haven't done that already. You know, make that part of your sales process. If you've done a successful what do you call it? Why is this word escaping me right now? I'm so lost for words right now. If you had a successful engagement with an employer, and you've put a person into the role and they're happy, and the candidate's happy, the employer's happy, ask them for a referral. You know, ask them to write a review. Ask them to go on to Google reviews and talk about how great the service was. Because when other people see that, then they're going to want to do business with you, simply because other people have had a good experience with your company. As I'm sure you can appreciate, bad reviews for a company don't do your business any good. All right, here. So this is more, and Candace laughs at me sometimes when I talk about these types of things, like about sales. But really, when you look at the why people buy, they tend to go through a process, and what we call that the buyer's journey. And so it's basically the process that somebody goes through in their head when they want to decide to buy a product or service. So as I was talking about in an example before, you know, there's an awareness stage. So someone says, you know what, I've got this job that I need to fill, and I need somebody to help me do it because I don't have the time to run. I'm running my business. I don't have time to do it. My HR manager is slammed. So you know what? Let's just hire a staffing recruiting firm to fill this need for us. So what do? They start going around and they start looking, right? They recognize that they have a problem. So now they start looking for ways to find a solution, right? So they're understanding they have the problem is their awareness stage. The consideration stage is now when they're going to start looking for a solution. And then the decision stage is, okay, now that I found a solution, or I've created a short list, I'm going to decide based on that short list who it is that I'm going to be going with. And along the way, every single step that the buyer takes, they're looking at your company and they're evaluating what it is that you can do. So again, like a broken record, this comes back to, what messages are you putting out there? What are you putting on your blog? What are you putting on your social media? All of these things play a part in defining what your brand looks like, the brand of voice that you have, and also how people perceive you. And if the perception is good, you have a better chance of being able to make that sale. So we talk about a lot of different things over here, and I want to make sure that there are just some things that you need to keep in mind when it comes to brands and how they work. You know, we talk about how COVID-19 is kind of on all of our businesses, as I'm sure you can appreciate. But as we know, we start to reopen, people are starting to understand that, you know, maybe the staff that they let go early on during the pandemic, they're not able to come back for whatever reason, so they need to hire new people, or there's somebody's been expanding, or even, you know, looking at what's happening with, like, you know, the grocery stores and the warehouses and those types of essential workers. They're constantly needing people to do the work, because I mean, there's higher, and even you were talking about, you know, bars and restaurants, as they start to reopen, people need extra staff for cleaning services, to be able to make sure that they maintain the cleanliness of their business. There's a whole host of reasons why people are going to be needing staffing firms and recruiting firms to do what it is that they do best, which is find candidates for these employers. So there's a ton of opportunities out there now, especially now that we're reopening. You know, the challenge that you're going to have with that is obviously just making sure that with your messaging, you cut through all of that noise that's happening, simply because of the fact that there's a lot happening right now. I mean, sure, the COVID-19 news is starting to wane a bit. You're starting to see not so much of it dominating the airwaves right now, but there's a whole host of other things that are coming up to replace it. And so trying to cut through all of that noise just to get people's attention is going to be something that you want to make sure that you take into account. Digital strategies are actually going to be very important. And the other thing else you want to keep in mind is, are you prepping your business to maintain the this new normal? Because this whole working from home business is new for a lot of companies. So, if the companies that you're working with need people who are going to be in a position where they have to work from home, you have to be able to understand that that's what they're looking for, and the candidates that you present to them are going to be the ones who are able to do that. People have asked also before is, should our sales approach change to this current normal that we're in? My answer to that is, it's like anything. The fundamentals of selling are never going to change. You really need to get the attention of somebody. And once you have their attention, you need to be able to present your product and service and then gain their trust. If you do those three things, then you've pretty much got the trifecta there, simply because you need to be able to put yourself in front of people. And again, I'll say this so I'm blue in the face. People can't buy your stuff if they don't know you exist. So that is, if you take anything away from me today, let that be the one thing. People can't buy from you if they don't know you exist. So how are you going to make that happen? That is the challenge. And so I want to make sure that these are the things you want to keep in mind when you're talking about selling. So your product has to meet their needs. Full stop. Nobody wants to be sold anything. They want to buy things. And if they're buying something, they only really care about how it's going to solve the problem they have. They don't care if you need to meet your sales quota for the month. They don't care if you are having a hard time selling that day. All they care about is the service you provide going to meet the needs that I'm looking for? And if it does, then we can talk further. But until then, you've got nothing. So always keep that in mind, that you want to be in service to others. So your whole purpose is, how can I help you? That famous line from Jerry Maguire. I'm kind of dating myself here. Help me help you type thing. That's what it is that you're looking for. That's what you want to do. You also want to be able to show your value to your prospect. Again, the marketing message that you have is very important. These are the words that you choose to use when you're selling and when you're putting out in your content are powerful. And you need to get people to understand and see that you provide a valuable service to them. If you don't, they're not going to bother with you. It's really simple math. I mean, and as I'm sure you all can appreciate, if you were buying something for yourself, if you didn't see that there was any value in it, you wouldn't take any money out of your wallet. I've been known to say this one phrase often as well. If you can get into their hearts and minds, you can get into their wallets. It is somewhat salesy in that, but it is very true. People won't give up money to you unless they trust that you are going to be able to do what you say you can do, and they're not going to get burned for it, really, at the end of the day. Especially the employers, because the employers can't afford to have bad candidates coming into their business and literally wreaking havoc on their companies. So here we are talking about that, helping the prospect help themselves. Stop trying to close. There's an old adage, the ABCs of selling, always be closing. I don't subscribe to that theory, simply because if you've done the work right, people are going to close themselves. They will come to the conclusion that you are the best person for them on their own. You don't need to be using any shady, sleazy closing tactics or anything else. Just ask them simply, is this something that you can work with? Is this does this sound good to you? Is this something that you believe could be helpful to you in your business? If they answer positively to those questions, you're helping them help themselves, and help them focus on what the best course of action is for their business. Lastly, gaining the trust of your prospect. Trust is probably the most important ingredient in selling. Obviously, knowing your product is very important too, but at the end of the day, it's really about trust. You know, I use a line when we're talking about trust. Is like, say you met somebody on the street for the first time. You've never seen this individual before in your life, and all of a sudden they're up in your grill and they're telling you about all this great service that they have available, and they expect you to pay for it on the spot, and your first reaction is probably going to be nope, nope, nope. That's that's unfortunately what a lot of sales reps do. They just show up and they want us talking and yammering about how great they are instead of asking questions about the individual they're speaking, what their needs are, and being able to present a solution that's going to meet them, and and that's how you gain their trust. That's how you really, that's how you sell. I mean, I know there's a couple of people who have sales staffing agencies. I don't know if Sonia's on this is on this session or not, but Sonia Meloff from Sales Talent Agency, she provides sales reps to businesses, and I mean, I'm sure she could probably tell you when it comes to selling, trust is very important. I don't know if she's here, but I'm going to take a look if she's appreciates a shout out. But you know, gaining your prospects trust is a very important thing that you need to do. Lastly, my final thought comes to employers and people who are buying for a business in a B2B scenario. When you're selling to them, the one thing that you need to keep in mind is this: what is it that your prospects fear the most? 9 times out of 10, they fear making the wrong decision. And unfortunately, for a lot of people, it's really hard for them to tell with all of the noise that's around whether or not they're going to be making the right decision. So you have to be hyper vigilant in making sure that they see your solution as the right decision for them. And obviously, of course, if you end up being the wrong decision for them, that's bad for your business. So make sure that you help them, because listen, at the end of the day, if someone's buying services for their business, on them if they are not able to deliver. So you want to do everything you can to make that business look good, because that in turn makes your business look good.